Hey, hello friends. Thank you for joining me again today. I am hopefully going to finish up this painting this afternoon. And for those of you who are keeping count, this is Daily Art Adventure number 651, finishing the wedding that I started 4 days ago, Saturday. The wedding, it's called at the wedding at a historic Homestead, just to help me keep straight which wedding is where, which was which. So let me back you up just for a minute. I've got you at a high angle because I'm trying to diminish the glare as much as possible, which isn't very possible, but be that as it may. So I did a glaze, not over the whole thing. I found it didn't really need it. I guess I'll keep it wide open for now. I did a permanent rose, reddish pink glaze in the sky, darkened this corner, darkened her dress as I talked about last night, and darkened this corner. So that was it pretty much. And now I am re-emphasizing painting the, oh, and then I did a little bit of light in the sky, and I'm going to do a little bit more again, pretty much with the same color that I'm using here. Classic opportunity for sky holes here, what I call tree holes. One of the haven't talked about this for a little while, bears repeating perhaps. One of the classic questions should be asked about tree holes, aka sky holes, is should they be hard-edged or soft-edged? Should they be hard or soft? The most correct answer is soft, but, there's a big but coming up. For some reason, until sky holes seem to be one of those things that students learn the name of them, and they see how they're done, and then they begin sort of monkey see, monkey do, imitating, but they very often turn out very poorly. Now, I like to always encourage my students when I'm saying something like this, is like, well, don't be discouraged or surprised. If anybody told you that this business of doing sky holes, aka tree holes, was easy, they were misleading you grossly. There's nothing easy about it. So many times the monkey see, monkey do imitation does not result in a pleasant effect. I was coming to a big but. The sky holes should be mostly soft, but when students are just learning how to do sky holes, they are, in my experience and observation, notoriously bad at making their sky holes because they don't really understand the visual. They understand the intellectual but they're not getting it visually. And student sky holes are always fuzzy, erroneously, sinfully fuzzy, wrongly fuzzy. Now I've got a problem here. I've got too many sky holes. Sky dots, right? They turn into if you do too many of them. So until you really, really, really get a handle on sky holes, tree holes, make yours hard edge. Make them hard edge until you get it, till the light bulb comes on. It's like, oh, now I get it. Okay, so, but the most correct answer is both. Should tree holes be hard edge or soft edge? And the answer is most emphatically both and. Hard and soft. That's part of what makes them believable, is that some of them are hard and some are hard edge and some of them are soft edge. So there you go. That's the real answer. The answer is both. But if you're a beginner, make them hard, because your default wrong setting is likely to be that you make them all soft, way too soft. I guess I'll finish the post lamp here. I certainly don't want to do too much on the background. The stars of this painting, of course, are the bride and groom. There's a surprise for you. And it is they that I want people to focus on, even though I'm painting, kind of a dangerously strong, composition in the background. As soon as I finish doing the glow in these windows, I think most of the rest of my painting process is really just going to be flattening out the house a little bit. It's got a little bit too much energy up here. Just, I like it, but just a little bit too much of a good thing. All right, I might be done with the windows and the porch light here, right here, porch light here, reflecting on this pillar post here. Okay, let's get going on I feel like the house, the siding of the house itself. As I say, it has a little bit too much energy. I'm mixing up now phthalo raw umber, for killing color, a little bit of yellow ochre, now a little bit of, again, don't take notes on this, I'm just talking about what I'm doing because you can't see it. I'm trying to match pretty much this color right here. Yep, pretty close. No, I can make it just 1/2 a tick lighter than that. clean brush. I can do a little bit of blending, softening those edges. So I'm painting, applying a translucent layer of color, the color of the house. I mean, it was a white house, but we're looking at it, of course, in dusk. I'm going to leave that for now. It'll be wet for a while. I can wipe off some if I want to. And here's a good question. I'm not exactly scumbling because I'm using, my brushes are a little bit wet, a little bit too wet for it to be considered scumbling. I've got, well, last time I cleaned them in the Turpenoid, I didn't dry them very well. And then in addition to that, I dipped them into liquid. So scumbling is a dry brush, and my brushes aren't dry, so it's kind of a thin soup. I'm not really sure what to call it. I don't remember anyone ever describing what they would call this technique. I guess it's scumbling. It's just a little bit wetter scumbling than normal. And if you watch me often, then you remember that the scumbling texture, it's great for doing what I'm doing now, which is getting the right color and value over a large area, you know, painting fairly quickly. So it's great for achieving proper color and value. The downside is it's not really a very pleasant texture. So anytime that you scumble, and yeah, I think even dry scumbling, I mean, I'm sorry, I mean even wet scumbling like I'm doing here, I'm going to have to come back and do some more painting on all of this stuff that I'm doing. Just little bits here and there. I don't mean paint over. I'm accomplishing what I want with this technique, that is getting the color right and the value right. But it's not a good finished texture. I'm going to try to mix up that same batch, that same color again, a little bit more of it, a little bit thicker, and then and just, now I could do something slightly, I could use this for shading. If I do, well, I was going to say I'd be breaking the rules. Whoop, that's not the right color. Hang on, it's too green. Neither is that. Bear with me. This, what I'm doing right now, is good for all of you students, or some of you, who may live under the delusion that good painters always get the color right first time. And then you beat up yourself because you think, oh, I'm not very good. That would not be a happy feeling to have, because it's not true. Good painters do not get it right every time. And I'm sure they get it better than beginners, of course. But anyway, part of the business of painting is mixing colors till you get them right. That is so funny. That's still too red. I mean, I'm sorry, too green. So I'm anti-greening it here, actually adding some permanent rose to this mix, which is a pretty gutsy move. And anytime you take paint off with a rag, of course, you're painting, you're not erasing. Now I'm painting with a slightly lighter version of the mixture I was using just a few minutes ago. Which of course is always the proper order. Darks first, lights last. And didn't have much effect. Mixing again, even lighter for the front edge of this post. I've been thinking lately and speaking it occasionally. You may have heard me if you've been watching me lately. The essence of good painting, if you've watched me at all, you've heard me say this, one of my most repeated mantras. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. The sine qua non, without which nothing. If you don't got this, you don't got nothing. You have to make interesting marks. Now, I'm talking about in real painting. I'm not talking about in hyperrealism. The rules are all different for that. And no, I do not consider that to be, in a sense, real painting. And of course, Every time I say that, I think of some of my good friends who do that and are good at it, and sometimes win competitions that I don't. And I've seriously thought, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't think that very long. Because I don't believe I am. Or more precisely, I don't believe Rembrandt was wrong. And a whole host of other great painters throughout history. Toby put me in touch with a YouTube channel, a man named Paul. His YouTube channel is Paul Talks, like to talk, the verb to talk, T-A-L-K. Paul Talks, plural, or present. What's the verb tense I'm looking for? Continuing action, anyway. He believes that the initial impetus of the modern art movement was in fact a reaction against, now this is an interesting theory, I've never heard it put this way before, it's making me go, that's interesting. That the original early stages, modern art, 1870, 1890, maybe up to 1910, something like that, was in fact a reaction against the exaggerated, illustrative nature of especially French Academy. And the French Academy went illustrative. David Ingres, I-N-G-R-E, Moreau, I think, and then much later, Bouguereau, that the Academy went overly illustrative because they had an ideologue's agenda. They were pushing an agenda, the agenda of the French Revolution. And so because they were pushing revolution, pushing an agenda, they went overboard in illustration, if you will. And Paul Talks, I forget his last name, I looked it up, I'll look it up again, says that then the modernists came along and said, no, that is not right. You've lost the essence of painting. And the essence of painting that Paul talks about, and that he says that the initial impetus of the modern revolution, the essence of painting is what I'm talking about when I talk about interesting marks. The essence of good painting is the marks themselves. Paul Talks, the Paul Talks guy, he's an American, lives in France, 25 years. He says that this quality, this painterly quality, again, the very same that I'm referring to when I go on about marks, interesting marks. He says that kind of thing, along with, of course, composition, texture, light, values, color, so on, all the abstract elements of painting, what I call the abstract elements of painting, back 150, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, used to be called the decorative element. Now that's very interesting, because that term has come to mean something very, very different from that. And let me repeat that. He says all the all the abstract elements of painting used to be summarily described as the decorative elements. And it has not meant that for quite a long time. I have had my painting, or my painting style, if you will, described in some places as decorative. Now, I could let myself get all offended if I let myself, but that's a dead end street. That getting offended stuff is for the boys. That's not a good solution. But make no mistake, when the people who called my painting decorative, whether I am offended or not, they were intentionally being offensive. It was a distinct insult. In fact, it's one of the ways that the art establishment, let's say the art professors that have drunk all the Kool-Aid of the contemporary art world, it's one of the ways that they are allowed to insult or offend painters like myself and then wipe their mouth and say, what? I was just saying it was decorative. And they know good and well what they're saying. They know very well that they're slamming the heck out of this style of painting, and just using a word that appears to most people to be very neutral, if not even slightly complimentary. Well, your painting is very decorative. Make no mistake, inside they're throwing up because they detest. That might be a slight exaggeration, but not only slight. Anyway, so I find it very interesting that the abstract elements of painting used to be called decorative. That's funny. Be that as it may. Back to the question, if you will, am I wrong? Am I making too much when I make a distinction between superrealism, which that used to be called the illustrative element. My painting style clearly has strong illustrative content. That is, I am illustrating things. You can tell. I mean, there's no question that's a bride and groom. There's no question this is a old house, at evening, right? There's no question about that. All of that is the illustrative. But hyper-realism or extreme realism is elevating the illustrative to the diminishment or the elimination of the decorative elements. Now, the only reason I'm saying all this is to not defend myself, I don't think, but when I call the kind of painting I'm doing here, the kind of painting that I do most of the time, when I call this real painting and draw a distinction between this and super realism, I am not like some quacky outlier in art history. And I've discovered that in the last couple of weeks listening to this Paul Talks guy even more than I realized. Before the French Revolution, before Jacques-Louis David and Ingres, I-N-G-R-E, Ingres, and other artists who shifted the focus of art very strongly away from painterly painting, if I can use that terminology, and shifted it strongly toward the illustrative. That takes us back 1889, right? That 1789, that takes us back over 200 years. In other words, this contention that I have that real painting consists in the mashing together of the illustrative and the decorative, to use it in the old-fashioned sense of the word. That debate goes back more than 200 years. And of course, I mean, the godfather of us all, again, would be Rembrandt. So I just, by the way, while I was talking there, I basically did, the main thing I did is I unified the color of the house a little bit and softened everything. Just softened edges, softened contrast, softened colors in an attempt to push all of this back so that the focus goes exactly where it needs to go. Now, oh, I need to do the same thing up there in that chimney. The chimney is one stage, one phase behind everything else. So let me take a minute and do that. It's, of course, a traditional red brick chimney. That's too red. So I take up a little bit of raw umber, my color killer, right? And that's a little bit too dark. Remember, anytime that you're putting opaque paint on your canvas, anytime you're putting opaque paint on your canvas, whatever color is on your brushes, whatever color of opaque paint is on your brushes, you can put that, you can put your brushes down, so to speak, you apply that color to any part of the painting that is darker than what's on your brushes. If you put your brush down, that is to say, if you apply the color that's on your brush, opaque color, to a part of the painting that is lighter than what's on your brushes, you have committed the unpardonable sin. That's fun. That's just for you people who missed growing up in church. You have violated, in my book, a very important principle, and that the effect will be, it will look chalky, or the word we usually use is muddy. All right, so, but I'm just describing the plain old principle. Again, you get dark with light, you get dark with transparent, and light with opaque. So if you have opaque paint on your brush, don't put your brush down on any part of the painting. I say that right when I'm violating it. Okay, but everything, all of this that I just put down, that I just painted over, was wet. So I really mixed up what was there. Oh boy. Of course, now let me, you know this, but I just want to make sure you understand it. Every rule can be broken. The name of my book that may or may not ever get written, I'm getting a little discouraged about in that department, is called The Breakable Laws of Painting. If you don't think there are any laws, it's just because you're a lousy painter. Either that, or you're not tremendously given to linguistic accuracy. There are a lot of people who thunder forth that there are no laws of painting, And what they typically then say is, "You give me a law." And they say it with this tone of voice, always. This is mandatory. They say, "You show me a law, and I'll show you a fantastic painting that breaks that law." You have to say it in that tone of voice to get the full effect. I'm sure you're enjoying that very much. Not. So, yes, of course, every law can be broken. There's a time and a place for breaking every one of the rules of painting. But if you don't know what the rules are, and by the way, some of the professors that say that, in fact, they are, in fact, yet now they belong, if they're contemporary painters, then all bets are off. I'm not even, that is not painting in my book at all. They are not painters, they are communicators. They have dubbed themselves, they identify themselves as, they're not, the art is communication, they say. So I take them at their word, I take them at face value. As soon as an artist declares that he or she is a communicator, then they have opted out of painting art and are now painting propaganda. All right, that's another topic, and we get on that frequently enough. I'm going to let it stay. But so some people who say there's no rules, and if you look at their paintings, and their paintings are ugly as, I want to say something naughty, but I won't. If it's that ugly, then the reason they say there's no laws is because they truly don't know that there are laws. All right, fair enough. I mean, that's the truth. If, however, they're good painters, then what we have is actually basically an issue of semantics. I can't remember. I don't know if does Mark Carder, fantastic painter. He might be one of those that kind of scowls at the idea of. I'm not sure if he does. I shouldn't say that. But there's some good painters that do. But they're simply not English majors. That's not true. But that's not the. But the way their brain works is they're not given to overly linguistic specificity. So it's really just a matter of linguistics or semantics. Because if they're a good painter, they're not only do they know the laws, even though you don't call them that, they follow them. I'm mixing up now a very dirty, well, it's actually brown. It was orange. I was going to say orange. I want to introduce some highlights here and there on this. And I'm intentionally messing things up, softening some areas here with this brush with a little bit of tan, dirty orange on it. Tonight is our monthly Painters Forum group. always one of my favorite evenings of the month. The average attendance, I suppose, somewhere between 10 and 20 usually. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Some of us have been getting together over 12 years. Very, say, special art friends. And it's just a critique group. We take turns. Everybody puts up their painting. Everybody talks about it. We can be really nice and gentle if the artist wants us to be, or we can be brutally honest if they want us to be. Whatever the person needs. If you don't have one of these in your hometown, then I recommend you start one. I know some of you are like live way out in the boonies and going easier than it sounds easy, you would say. So forgive me. I'm playing around with here with even barely on it. I know it's terrible glare. Let me turn this off for a second, see if it's any better. Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I'm playing around with indication of reflection. Play of light, play of light, play of light, right? Play of light does not mean which way is the light coming from. In fact, I don't even allow students, you, to pat yourself on the back if you answer that question correctly in your painting. That is to say, well, I got the light coming from the right direction. Good for you. That means you don't get kicked out of you don't get run out of town on a rail, so to speak. But you don't get any points on the board. Now I've mixed analogies. Now I'm talking sports analogy. The reason is if you give yourself the luxury of saying, yay, 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 I got the light coming from the right direction, then you're likely to stop at that point, to settle and say, there, I know how to paint. You get the light coming from. And I don't want anybody to stop that point, because that's not anything worth bragging about. Now, getting it wrong is something worth being embarrassed about, but you don't want to give yourself a great deal of credit for getting that right, because then you're liable to stop there. All right. So play of light is the most important single element. Now, some of you are going to say, wait a minute, just a little while ago you were saying that interesting marks is the most important. So what's the deal? Okay, the deal is one of those is a noun and one of them is a verb. Here we go. A painting. What is the single most important aspect of a painting? The answer is play of light. That's a noun. The painting is a noun. Now the verb, to paint. When you are painting, the verb, what's the most important thing for you to do? The answer is make interesting marks. Okay, does that make clear? So which is more important on a painting, play of light or interesting marks? Play of light is the, if you don't got that, you don't got nothing, so to speak. By the way, those of you who don't speak English, sometimes I use improper grammar on purpose. But what is it that sets great painters, the kind I aspire to? You know, when I see somebody who's a better painter than I am, it puts fire in my bones, because I look at their work and I say, dang, they know something I don't know. And actually one of the most fundamental things that they know is they're making better marks than I am for some reason. Now there may be other things as well, but almost always that's what it comes down to. And I have three painters that I mention all the time. Not necessarily the best painters in the world necessarily, although they're very well known in the world. They are Richard Schmid, Jeremy, whoops, I just dropped his last name, Mann, M-A-N-N, Jeremy Mann, and Tibor Nagy. So T-I-B-O-R-N-A-G-Y. All three of them make me sick. I say that with a wink and a smile, as I hope you can tell. And boy, am I glad that they're better than I am, because that gives me something to chase. Not that there's not lots of other people. There are. My brain just can't handle trying to keep up with hundreds. I have friends who know all these names of great painters. They can name 100 great living painters, and I sit there stupid and stupefied, because my brain just doesn't remember that kind of stuff. I wish it did, but be that as it may. All right, I think I'm pretty happy. I'm going to take this painting to my painters group and get their feedback. Going to get their feedback. And I can tell you what they're going to say, because they're all artists. As soon as I put it up and say, I'm not sure I'm finished, and they'll say all at once, you're finished! Don't do anything! And then when it's their turn, they'll put their painting up, and they'll say, well, I'm not sure that I'm finished, and everybody else will go, no, you're done. But there is this fascinating, I'm not sure if it's a principle, but there's this fascinating dynamic in the art, in the world of, in art culture, in art community. We're always willing for the other person to quit sooner than we are willing to quit ourselves. We always go, no, I think it just needs a little bit more work. And he said, everybody else says, no, don't touch it. Yeah, I just messed up her dress a little bit on purpose, soften that edge. Just a little bit of playful mess, playful fuzziness. Right. One of the things I worried about, or I'm not sure worry is the right word, that I was thought about and was concerned about when I started this painting on Saturday afternoon, I decided very early on to put the bride and groom in front of this beautiful old farmhouse. And thankfully, so I had to start painting it before the bride and groom got there. Thankfully, they agreed with me, so that was good. And but my concern was, if the sun is behind the house, right? So everything on this side of the house is dark except for the lights, two lights, and light coming out windows. And yet I knew I wanted lots of light in the bride and groom, and I wondered, could I pull that off? You know, where is the light coming from, honestly, that is hitting, especially the bride here? And I was concerned about that. Still am a little bit, I guess, but not much. There's enough light coming through this window, and certainly there's something else hitting her from this side. But I don't think it. Now that I'm done, if you will, I don't think it is bothering the viewer. I think our portrait brain anyway just accepts it right the way it is. So I see something that needs to be fixed a little bit. This. Let's make that glow also. So there's a lot of glow happening right here, of course. And again, I think the viewers mind will just accept that. Like, yeah, sure, there's some light. In other words, I don't think we're going to, the viewers are, I don't think that we're disturbed by the fact that sun's setting behind the building, everything here's in shade. Where'd that light come from? The answer is we don't know, but it's okay. We'll find out tonight. The painters group, see if they agree with me. Somebody might say, where's that light coming from that's on there? Anyway. All right, so I think I'm done. Oh, good. Lots of you guys have left some good chats. Let's look at that before we go. Thank you for joining me. Oh, good. Fun chats here. Whoa! I honestly did not see how much. Uncle 60, coffee time. Claire's okay. Hey, David Mercer, good to have you on board. Yes, I am still wheezing. By the way, I took your suggestion, David, that it in fact might be paints and fumes that are exacerbating my coughing, and just by trying to keep track. Am I worse after I've painted or while I'm painting? And I don't think I am. It's just a tiny tickle still there. Thanks for asking. Oh, I got a lot to read. It was the liquid was my problem. Yeah, and I thank you for mentioning that. I guess we do want that on. I am going to continue to study that, David. Thanks for alerting me to that. Uncle 60, my sky holes look like I did it secondary. I have to be careful of brush marks that I leave are different than original sky. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a good description. And David says the post lamp should reflect corner porch poles, the edge of balcony as well. Let me see if I can. The post lamp should reflect on the corner, like maybe right here. I'm not sure if this is what you're talking about, but the question is this lamp closer to us than the end of the, and I'm going to do a pencil scratch right there just so that it's clear that lamp is back there. And I may not have understood what you were saying there, David, so correct me if that's not it. The post lamp should reflect corner porch pole. Oh, here? And the edge of balcony as well. I got a call coming in that I have to decline. You might be right. It should be shining more. This should be shining more there. Oh, and up here. I'm thinking. Good point. Good point. I will think about it more after I hang up. After I end this. You need a candle. The open flame will burn off the fumes. Oh, thank you, David. You did mention that earlier. Really? I will try it. Thanks for the tip. I will try it. Thank you, Small Bunny Zozo with candy. XOXO with candy. Not sure what your name is, but thank you. And the porch pole are not 3D. They look flat. You are exactly right. I hope I fixed it. And I'll take a look at that as well. That's a good point. That's related to the are they getting enough here? They were flat earlier, and that's maybe I fixed that after you said that. I don't know, but I will check that out. Thank you very much. So, if Uncle 60 blows up his studio, donating his painting, his canvas to me, thank you. Oh yeah, Gone with the Wind, the pink sky. You're right, it does look like a pink sky. It does look like a Gone with the Wind sky. By the way, I was going to do something, and I never got back to it. Hang on, let me do a quick addendum. So I'm mixing up some sky blue. Oh, you guys can't even see it here. Let me move you, and I think I'll move you this way. See if this works. Whoops. Hang on. Sorry for the rock and roll. Okay, you can at least see up here now. I've got phthalo blue and titanium white, so very pale phthalo blue. And there was a little bit of blue up there. And earlier I thought, oh, it'd be nice to come back and do a little bit of blue sky peeking through the clouds. That's probably good enough right there. Now, let me explain a little bit. Why does that usually look good? No, why does what usually look good? Painting the sky blue after you've painted the clouds usually looks good. In other words, you paint the sky, clouds, shading, some blue, but the last thing you do is you come back and paint the farthest away thing, the blue. The reason it works well is because that principle that I actually talk about quite often, about our brain, the viewer's mind gets a little flutter of confusion, which feels like pleasure, aesthetic pleasure, when we're confused. Everybody knows the same principle with sky holes, tree holes. Everybody knows the blue sky is behind the clouds. The clouds are close to us. The blue sky is behind the clouds, far away, right? Everybody knows that from nature. But when you paint it in reverse, so the blue paint is now closer to you than the cloud-colored paint, it creates that little wiggle, momentary speck of confusion, which doesn't sound intuitively, well, I don't want to be confused. No, but in art you do. And hang on, let me change monitors here real quick. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, of course, that's part of the reason why sky holes are effective, tree holes, because everybody knows the tree is up close and the light stuff is behind the tree colored paint. It creates that little moment of confusion, and that's pleasant. Anyway, that was something I was going to do. Thank you. David, the railing post to your left by her dress or her knee is weird. Okay, and I hope I fixed it. I hope I fixed it, because I think that was before, after you made that comment. Creative Girl of Color with Daniel B. Hey, that's beautiful. Thank you very much. Dave Omer Desser Art Supply. I'm glad to know. Next time I'm in Canada, I'll know where to go. Make your own paint. I've heard of people like you, David. For some reason, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and the Facebook name, Vincent Mercer. Got it. And the glaze is, my glaze is not coming out right. Uncle 60, too opaque. Oh, well, okay. Good question. Yeah, getting a glaze right. First of all, make sure that you're not using, of course, white. That's not a glaze. Or yellow ochre or Naples yellow. They are extremely opaque, just like white. Also, cad yellow. If you're trying to make a glaze with a cad yellow, that will not work. Well, it can, but cad yellow is very opaque as well. My favorite yellow for glaze, of course, is Indian yellow. Also, some reds are quite opaque. So my favorite glaze for red is permanent rose. And then it's just a matter of balance, paint versus medium. There's, of course, all kinds of mediums out there. You know, liquid is what I use the most, but I also have, you know, two slow, medium fast is walnut alkyd, and real slow is Neo McGill. So there are more, of course. Of course, the traditional is linseed oil. You know, I should mention. And I never use linseed oil. That's funny. My dad would be ashamed. And David says the brush maybe has a lot to do with it. Yep. Glad to make you sick, Uncle 60. Like a drug, never finish, I need more. Michael, thank you for the word, my friend. Yes, I am finished, thank you. Oh, broken color, doggone it, you're right. Uncle 60, I should have done that. And Uncle 60 coffee money, thank you, my friend. You are too kind, I appreciate it. Broken color, yeah, what was I thinking? Because you're really right. I sort of lost. Now I don't know that I should broadcast the whole thing because this broadcast is getting a bit long. I will tell you though that when it comes to broken, well, that's okay. Let me move you around where you can see again. Come on, we'll get there in a second. Just purple is one of my favorite colors. But do you see that dot right there? I think you can see it. That's not broken color, that's broken value. In other words, it's way too bright for the spot where I put it. So let me look for some lighter areas. One of the things I was going to say is that in the broken color stage world, the world of broken color, violet, purple is one of my favorite go-to colors. But that's all I'm going to do with that. I think right now with purple, I'm going to mix up some green and do some broken color with green. And of course, a little tiny bit of that in the tree, I mean, it just logically makes sense, doesn't it? And of course, there's green in the tree, the ordinary viewer might say. Again, I'm doing a kind of a dull pale green, being a little bit delicate with it at the moment. Let's switch now to broken color red. Now this is the way I do broken color, and it's kind of crazy in a way that I just mix up a color on my brushes and then start looking for a place to put it. So I look at what's there and then start looking for areas of the painting that are that value that light darkness. And you can put broken color just about anywhere, any color, anywhere. Because of my acrylic underpainting technique, very often there are little hints of color coming through from the underpainting that definitely helps me in my broken color phase, because I can take what's already there and play with it. I'm very much liking what's happening with this red. Now I'm going to add some orange to that and some white, so it's quite a bit warmer and lighter. Let's look for some more areas to do. It's kind of funny, her ratio, that I was forgetting my own technique. I guess when my mind starts going, you guys can help me paint. Now, Dan, don't forget to do this. Oh yeah, thank you. I was forgetting that. That'll help a lot. I hope I'm kidding. Oh, I've been throwing myself a little challenge. I don't think I've talked about this very much. I discovered that there are two colors that I don't like: pink, bubblegum pink, and Hansa yellow, lemon yellow, cad yellow light. The real light, bright, intense yellow. In fact, I was in my local art store just the other day, and I bought 2 tubes of this color, because once I realized that, you know what, I never use that color. I consider that a weakness. I discovered, like, well, that ain't good. So I bought 2 tubes of it because I think I should like it. I should use it. And so right now that's what I've got on my brush. And I want to try to find, I mean, I don't know where to put it other than, because it's so bright, other than in some of these already light areas. There. Okay, that's enough. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little dots of it. So rather arbitrary, I admit. And then the other color that I don't like, so to speak, and I consider that a weakness, is pink, bubblegum pink. So I'm going to mix up rose red and titanium white to make it just pink, pink, pink. And I'm going to try to find an excuse. Again, rather arbitrary. I mean, the bride and groom could care less whether I have any pink in my painting or not. And I'm going to keep it pretty subtle because but I honestly do think that if I discover there's a color I quote unquote don't like, well, that's just ridiculous as an artist. There shouldn't be any color you don't like. You know, it's like a little kid not liking vegetables. That's just ridiculous. All right, good. I like that. Several little bits of pink, and it's good. And then the third color that I like fine, but I discover that I almost never use it. So for the same thing, I want to get some of this in my painting. And the color is a light turquoise, aqua, or in this case, I forget what company makes, let me turn you down, point you down just for a second. I can't remember what company makes this paint, but this is straight out of the tube. Permanent green light. I can't remember. It might be Michael Harding. It's not Winsor Newton. It's one of the kind of new paint companies, like Michael Harding, something like that. Anyway, and I actually think it's a beautiful. I bought it because it's very helpful for painting green lights in traffic. But I discovered that I rarely include this color in my paintings. And again, that makes me think, wait a minute, that's a weakness. That's dumb. I shouldn't. Anyway, I saw it in somebody else's painting too, and said, wow, you know what? I don't use that painting, that color. Isn't that funny? I mean, again, I just think that's crazy. If I look at somebody's painting and they have a color in their painting that I don't use, then something's wrong. Whoops. This is a very electric color, as you can probably tell. So I'm being really, really delicate. I guess I am broadcasting my whole broken color phase, aren't I? Thank you, Uncle 60. By the way, nothing wrong with putting down some paint with a brush, traditional, and then messing it up with anything. That's a pretty good strategy. Practice is the word I'm looking for. That's a pretty good practice. One of you guys, I don't think it's any of you who are online today, sent me an article. Maybe it was. Sent me an article from, not an article, a TED Talk, where somebody at a TED Talk, a scientist, described why broken color, I'm not sure that's the word he used, but that's what he was talking about, why broken color creates a vibration in our eye. It's actually in our brain, and it was quite fascinating. Basically, it says when there are two colors that are the same value side by side, one part of your brain reads it as a single shape. Another part of your brain reads it as two separate shapes. And it's the toggling between those two little bits of your brain that create the sensation of vibration. And again, it's I believe, a pleasant sensation. So that's why just in the last couple of years, I've gotten fired up about broken color. Yeah, that's better. All right, that's it. You probably left some more chat since I did that. So let's just, yeah. Let me see what you guys have said then. My railing is slanted a little. A little broken pink on the blue building. I almost did that. I'm being very conservative, very soft edges, but I do like that. That's a good idea. All right, I'm not going to do everything you guys tell me, but that seemed like a particularly good idea. Thank you. And now pink loves me. That's right. David, you just discovered Tom's Kincaid luminosity light trick. Pink over the yellow in the windows. No kidding. Wow, I have to look that up. I thought I knew all the Thomas Kincaid light tricks, but that's what I did. Pink over the yellow, there, and there, and there. Oh, I will check that out. Thank you, David. As you know, I like saying good things about Thomas Kincaid because we're all supposed to hate him. Of course, we hate him because he made $1 bazillion, and we didn't. But of course, he used his art to create sentimental scenes. And I like to say, who knows, maybe that's why God put him on the planet, you know, so leave him. The point is, he was a good painter. He was a very good painter. One of his galleries I walked into years and years and years ago, and they had a small plein air painting of his, original plein air, not a print, original. So it wasn't sentimental or anything. And he was a good painter. So yeah, if you say bad things about him, you're not likely to learn lessons you should learn. So I like that, David. And hey, Mr. Dan, how do you 06U save your palette of oil paints? In spite of that typo, I put it in the freezer. That's all. Just every day when I finish here, it's going downstairs in the garage in the freezer. That's how I do it. And GG Top Gamer says, which style are you painting? Realism, Impressionism? Definitely not realism, and it's impressionistic. My favorite term is abstract realism. It's obviously realistic, but it's also obvious that realism is not the top priority. The top priority is all the abstract elements, the texture, the color, composition, values, everything else. Yep, go get a beer now. Yeah, that's right, David. David points out, rightly so. I mean, doggone, if this isn't a sentimental looking painting, shh, David, don't say that. Don't. You're exactly correct. You know, I mean, this is not far from a Thomas Kincaid, is it? It's dangerously close. No, it's not even close about it. There's no question. That's what that is. So, guilty as charged. Me and Tom, we're like this. All right, you guys, so much fun. I appreciate your company again. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Except all you guys that need to get jobs and stop watching me. Don't do that. I'll be brokenhearted if you leave me. All right, thanks, guys. And all you people who watch and never say anything, you need to up your game, you know. You need to leave the chat. Yes, you do. Okay, too late now, though. Nope. Too late. But you can leave a comment. I appreciate it. And I read them all. Thank you very much. And respond to most of them when I can. Thanks. Bye-bye.